I stand tall as a tree, my roots in the ground, my trunk strong and sturdy, and my branches high in the sky. And I draw upon the abundant life force energy of Mother Earth as she ignites me and nourishes me with her love. But it wasn't always this way. My mother was only 16 years of age when she left her home country of Egypt. With my father and my sister a baby in her arms, to live in Australia 60 years ago. She traded an ancient land of Egypt to live for the promise of freedom in a disparate one that she had no idea about. Even though my parents were both born and raised in Egypt, they were full-blooded Greeks. And even though they knew 4 languages very fluently, English was not one of them. My mother was a live wire. She was daring and bold. I mean, you'd have to be making a move like that. But over the years, she missed her family, her sisters, her mother and father, and everything she knew. And she started to lose that spontaneity and passion. She became sad, lonely, and depressed. I was born a few years later, and I came in a bundle of light. I was bounding with joy and boundless love. I became the shining light in her life. Throughout my childhood, my mother and I used to stand at the kitchen, looking out of the kitchen window with our heads leaning into each other, arm in arm, looking up at the night sky, making our wishes upon the stars. In fact, I had become her lucky star, a symbol of hope for which her fading dreams could be fulfilled. Our bond was concrete. My nerve system got fused into hers. I felt her pain, I felt her shame, and I felt her despondency. When she was sad, I'd make her laugh. When she was anxious, I would calm her. When she was afraid, I'd give her courage. And when she was down, I would lift her spirits. It was clear that my job was to keep her light shining bright like the stars in the night sky. Often throughout my childhood, she would grab my arm with the clutching fear, desperate fear, despair in her eyes, and look at me and say, "The only reason I'm living is because of you." I was only 4 years old. And it made me confused because at one point I would feel special and I would feel chosen. But why was I feeling so heavy? One day I came home from school and I came to find her and she was in her bedroom swallowing a bottle of poison. And I could see it was poison because I saw the capital letters, poison. I was shocked. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen. My heart stopped. I didn't have a voice at the time to say, "Mama, no, stop. Mama, don't. No," I didn't have that voice. I was only about 8 years old. Instead, I ran around the house looking for something. I ran around the house in total panic. There was no one around, and I heard like a gunshot. A bomb had exploded in my brain. And I felt in that moment and knew in that moment that not even I could keep my mother here any longer. And that if she had died, I would have no purpose in life. She survived. But something in me died that day. My safety died. On the outside, my mother was an ideal. She mothered me in all the customary ways. She made my dresses, dressed me really well, fed me the best Greek food, taught me how to cook, taught me how to clean. But on the inside, I felt smothered, I felt heavy. My childhood and my innocence was thwarted. And I became her healer. I became her teacher. And I became her mother at a very early age. Often I would go to the park and find the seesaw. This was my favorite thing to do. She was a woman that would go to the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And during those upswings when she was really super high, she was like an ever-ready battery, like an Energizer bunny. And she wouldn't stop. She'd go on and on and on and on. Nothing would stop her. And then a few months later, she would plummet down to the darkest of hell. And from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows, this is where I had to live, between life and death. And the seesaw was my favorite place to go, the park. I had no one to play with. My sister was at school. But I did find a way to play on that seesaw. And what I would do is I would stand in the center, right at the center of the fulcrum of the seesaw, and I would do my best to balance it. And so it would thud to one side, and then I would overcompensate, and it would thud to the other side. And it took me hours and hours and focus of concentration to try to get that seesaw balanced. That's all I wanted to do. At the moment that it became still and balanced, something opened up in me. It was almost like I disappeared, my burdens disappeared. I became free. I felt a light. I became a child of the universe. All my burdens and all my fears and everything had just disappeared. And little did I know at the time that that's where I would find God, in between the dualities, right there at that still point, between the highs and the lows, between the ups and the downs, and between the thises and the that's. Another very beautiful thing that was happening in my life was that my girlfriend, my best girlfriend, was living next door. And I would climb that fence every day. And it was a tall fence. And I found a way of climbing it really easily. As soon as I would take that right leg over, I would take a deep breath, a sigh of relief. I knew I was stepping into another world, a world that was peaceful and calm. Because my best friend had an Australian family, a normal family. And it was so great to be there. And then when I would have to go home, I would cross my leg on the other side with my left leg. And then I would take another breath. But this time it was a gasp. It was a gasp because I knew I was going into that battlefield. When my mother was feeling really great, we'd go on long picnics. We'd get out of the city and we'd go to the country. Now, a picnic would never be one or two people. It would be, we're Greeks, don't forget, right? It would be 20, 30 people. Cousins, uncles, aunties. My family was like one big Greek fat wedding on steroids. The loud music, the bouzouki playing, a normal conversation would sound like an argument. And it was during this time, one of these excursions, that I would slink away quietly. No one would notice that I was gone. Everyone was in their character. And I would walk into a wonderland where the trees were and where the ocean was and where the lakes were. And it was here that I found another mother, one where I could be safe, one where I could feel the quietude, one where I could be held in the loving arms, one where I could be the daughter. And it was with Mother Earth. With Mother Earth, I could just walk away and touch the leaves and trace them with my fingers and bend down and press my hand into the emerald green, mossy ferns, look up into the sky and feel the possibilities of my life. This is where I came to rest. I could take a deep breath and unravel the angst, where I could just be me. Mother Earth is where I found my church. And at every turn I found an altar where I could be exonified of my pain and my shame and just be me. I found the feminine face of God. We don't always get what we want from our parents, but we get what we need. My birth mother taught me how to live my life fully because she could not. My birth mother taught me how to live my light radiantly alive because hers burnt out. But it was my earth mother that taught me how to take all that pain and all that shame and use it as fertilizer and allow myself to rise up out of the dark soil of my being and put my roots in the ground, my trunk strong, and my branches up high. I now stand between the dualities. I now stand between the above and the below, between heaven and earth. As a loving daughter in the arms of the greater mother.